I'm so grateful to have you here on the Fantasy Grimoire podcast with me. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I want to jump straight into gamma raids, or I know I'm saying that with a very South African accent right now, but gamma raids is probably more accurate. It's your debut, the first in the series. What can you tell us about this story?
Gamma Raids has my whole heart. I don't know if I've told this. I've told this story a few times when I've written several drafts over the years of different books when I started out and just writing. I think I had contemporary romance going and I was like, oh, this is fun. It's hobby. But then I had this dream for Gamma Raids 1, and I just rewrote my whole plan for what I wanted to do. I had Kat and Lee right away on the page. So my book follows two protagonists, Kat Hanneman and Lee Waters. They are best friends at the Space Academy, and they've pretty much been that way since they started. It was kind of instant, oh, let's be friends. They ended up together. And where this story starts, it's been 7 years, and their friendship is right on the verge of, oh crap, this is more. And neither of them know what to do with it. They've kind of pushed against that, towed the line for years. And we're right at the point of, do we go for it? Do we not? And so that's where we open up with Gamma Raids. It's obviously best friends to lovers. There's a dark radiation that plagues the galaxy that they're essentially going out on missions to go solve. As Gamma cadets. So Gamma, right? That's kind of the senior level cadets. The Gammas actually run the academy. So they're kind of the point where they're now instructing the cadets, and they lead out squadrons to go on these missions. And so they're kind of in charge of monitoring the dynamic and deciding how that's going to go. It's a really fun time.
I love that. I'm just looking at how you're getting so animated about that. And I think that is the best way for readers to vet their authors and their books, because if the author's excited about it, there's a very good chance that I'm going to be excited about that story as well. I actually just debated this with another guest. Her episode is going to air soon, where she was saying to me that like Friends to Lovers is now apparently a trope that no one likes. And I'm like, okay, well, I clearly missed that memo as well. And I was like, I am probably biased, but my husband and I are a walking Friends to Lovers trope in real life. Was not love at first sight at all. Okay. We were friends for a good period of time before he, made a move. And here we are 15 years later. So yeah, I'm a fan of that trope. Thank you very much.
That's so funny. Because honestly, like, I've always had a best friend complex where it's like, that's kind of the thing. You want your best friend. And that's what I was looking for in my partner as well. It wasn't really the tall and gorgeous, and my husband is gorgeous, but it was the friendship. I was always looking for that best friend there. And I think a lot of the fear there is just with reading Friends to Lovers, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be cringy. And there might be some of that. But it's going to be hella blast. Like, it's going to be a fun time. It's going to get messy. It's going to get dirty. And I just love it.
I hadn't come across this term until I saw it on your page. You were talking about it. Am I saying this correctly? RomantiSCI? No, wait, no. RomantiSCI?
RomantiSCI.
RomantiSCI. Okay, wow. I was like trying to say that fast. It like only said it in my head. So this is a new subgenre that I'm seeing being talked about. Well, I've seen it elsewhere as well. To those that don't know, do you want to explain to the listeners what subgenre this is?
It's kind of the flip side of romantasy. So we have a romantic fantasy, but for us, it's romantic sci-fi, but it's not just a rom-com in space. It's epic proportions, just with a sci-fi setting. Oh, wow. And again, often they're mixed with fantasy. Like sci-fi and fantasy go hand in hand, especially when you're doing intergalactic space travel. Like that doesn't exist. It's all fantasy. So yeah, we just make romance a kind of focus.
I'm sorry. I'm getting so excited that you said that, because I am not enough of like a sci-fi buff to be able to argue it. Like if you want to argue fantasy with me, like let's go toe to toe. But I'm just like, for me, sci-fi and fantasy have always sit in the same domain because, as you just said, it's made up. Like if we're talking about a rom-com versus I don't know, just like a normal romance. Fine. Okay, we're talking about two different areas. But for this, I fully agree with you. And that's actually why I wanted you on the podcast as well. It's because like the whole point of my podcast is fantasy. Okay, but I was just like, sci-fi is part of that. And I don't know enough sci-fi authors, and I want to try and change that. So that's why you're here as well.
I feel like there's been such a hurdle for sci-fi because they're like, it's going to be heavy, it's going to be science, it's going to go over my brain. But a lot of us are making up that science. A lot of it is just as fictional as any magic system. So
Ooh,
again, it's
yeah,
class.
good point. Because like it's not like I've done magic, so I'm just making yeah.
It all starts somewhere.
I love how you're making it so accessible and just easy for the readers. I want to talk about when you came up with gamma raids. I remember you were going to go the YA route at first, but then you switched. And I love that you spoke about that because I don't think that enough authors are talking about the decisions that they've made. Like if they've gone one route and then they decide to go another route. What was the reason behind the switch for you?
This is big. This was my debate all summer, deciding when to launch my book. So, when I originally wrote Gamma Raids, in my head, it was new adult. Like it was crossover fiction. They're young adults forced to grow up so fast. So, they're that college, they're that hotspot of crossover new adult. But when I had my initial beta readers come in, they're like, oh, it's kind of young adult, but mature content. And they kept skewing me to YA. And I was like, okay, YA. But even though my heart was like, I'm kind of leaning to the other side still. And even I was querying, right? So I think I was public enough. I was kind of secretive. So I queried for about a year, had some interest there. And one of the agents told me straight up, we've got to push it.
Like, so wait, hold on, wait, pause. Let's pause. You queer area because now, how was that process? I'm so fascinated. Like, let's get into it.
Let's see, querying was awful and exciting and a nightmare, and it taught me poetry. So it's a lot of feelings. You get crushed a lot and you find spirit to keep going and bond over the pain and the trauma, I guess. I was speaking to someone else about this, and it's like it's an abusive situation almost to be. I'm not going to play the A word there. It's not straight up. It's very rough on your mentality. You come out of it thinking, wait, someone actually still likes my book. So it's a roller coaster. But again, those moments when you do get the interest of like, oh, I want to read more, it's validation to the max. And I hate that they have that control over us. To cope with all of that, I started writing poetry. And so I started spitting that out. And I don't know poetry, but now I feel like I've been incorporating those skills in my books. And so again, it's been a growth adventure all the way for me.
But you were also talking about the one agent when she reviewed your book. Sorry, I cut you off there just because I got like so excited about your query news. Um, the one agent, she was saying something about your YA.
Yes.
Yeah.
So YA versus new adult. So the one I actually spoke with several of them. This one was like, you need to push your book YA or adult because new adult is still kind of a newish margin for us. Again, there are more imprints even in trad coming out for new adult, but it's very much a new section. And even libraries, they don't know where to put your book if you're like, it's new adult. So even in my library, they've pushed it to adult because that just doesn't exist. New adult is a very scary realm to place your book, except for the indie journey, which is where we ended up falling. I went back and forth where to put it, but I always felt like my cadets were basically adults that were grown up too fast. I just felt like that was a better spot for it. And then what it actually came down to at the end of the line, I'm like, new adult YA, who will it go to? My husband was like, you know what? Push it to new adult, and for the upper YA audience who it still is accessible to, it will be the cool book that they're reading, the new adult. So that was my final spin on, okay, we're still going to reach both audiences, but we're going to focus on the new adult. So that ended up being our safe space.
I think sometimes our husbands have this weird insight where even though they're not part of our industry, first of all, common sense is a thing. Love that about them. But also, like, I will double check things with my husband as well, but not for any reason that I want a second opinion. So, like, I ordered my retractable banner for conventions today. It's very exciting. I just sense checked with him. I was like, what do you think of this? And he's like, I can't read your font. Now, I've been staring at this design for far too long, so of course it goes way over my head. Made some tweaks, and he's like, yeah, now I can read it. Just something simple like that. He doesn't need to understand the industry, but like the insight that comes with it is so helpful.
They're human people. They know.
Exactly.
Far enough away, but close enough that I feel like it is really helpful.
I do want to talk about, and I love that you've already touched on, it's just like creating a magic system. We haven't lived in a magical world despite our wishes. So, but What are some of the best and worst parts about creating a sci-fi setting?
Oh, I've loved this question. I was thinking about this the past couple days and I'm like, I'm so excited. So the best part, sci-fi is sexy. Like it's futuristic tech. If you can dream it, it can exist. And then they have their space suits and they're super fit. It's just really it has my heart. It's a fun time. I've always been drawn to stars, like a stargazing, and that can happen in all genres too. But I was like, when you're living among the stars, zipping around, there's just something so dreamy.
Yeah.
So that's my highs for sci-fi. My hurdles, I guess, is the actual science. And this is going to be funny coming from me. I am not a sci-fi girl. I grew up reading, I watched dramas. I watched Gossip Girl, Greek, and Gilmore Girls, and all those rom-coms, 10 Things I Hate About You. You watch them over and over again. That was what I loved. And
Mhm.
so to write a sci-fi book was terrifying. I started writing it. I don't know if I've told this either, but it was a writing exercise. I was writing another book and I was like, I'm going to try it in sci-fi because that's what I feel like it should be. And
Mhm.
I just did it. And I was like, you can just do that. So the science has been a hurdle for me. On the other side, I come from a very sciencey family. My dad, my brothers, my husband,
Yeah.
mechanical engineers,
Oh,
aerospace. I feel like it was just fated to end up there. And so I have had a lot of very helpful resources who have gone back to I sent them the initial draft. They're like, actually, this science doesn't work. I had a really dumb moment. I was using airplane propulsion for my spacecrafts, which is going to go over people's heads. There's just no like air in space. Is that what it is? There was something that didn't work with airplane. Right? Is
gravity.
that what it is? And
Yeah.
so they're like, that's just not going to work. And so I was like, bless the family, bless my sciencey people, my go-tos. And then again, just my husband, like we said, we go to them. But whenever I have these moments where I'm like, I just can't figure out this tech thing. And the number of times he's told me, I'm not an astrophysicist, babe, but he stays up with me and he figures it out. Like he gets what I don't get. It's just been an awesome pair.
This is actually my favorite part of each episode because all the conversation that results from this is always so interesting. What is your bookish hot take?
I have two I was debating on which one I want to go for.
Yeah.
Um,
Both?
should we do both? I was like, I could pick in the moment. One of them, I feel like tropes are so overrated. I feel like I saw a lot of posts on this, how there's Gen Z marketing and then there's millennial. Did you see that?
Yes. I was like, what is going on? What is this bussing in this cab? And I was like, oh, are we still speaking English? Because I'm genuinely confused.
I feel like we're shoving ourselves into the boxes and mentality of readers is going into those boxes and authors. And I was like, we're so much more than these little tropes. Yes, they're awesome for marketing, but there were so much more. And I just feel like we're being so boxed off. And the second one, romance does not have to mean intimacy. So
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot recently too. Like a lot of people, especially in romance, that are like, oh, it wasn't romance. They didn't get physical till like the end. And I'm like, but all the yearning and all those little touches and the moments and the thoughts, and think of like even Jane Austen, the
Mhm.
romance was a hand touch, but it was all the psychological stuff. And so I feel like romance is just broader than we think.
I fully agree with you. I say this knowing that I'm about to edit probably the most twisted spy scene that I've ever written in my life. It's a little bit like jarring. I've had this discussion in various forms when it comes to spice over the years. I am not a massive spice writer, purely because I'm in my own head about it. That's number one. Number two, it doesn't always make sense for the stories that I tell. So I like to say I have plot-driven spice where it makes sense to the plot. With that being said, I also don't write romance, so it's very easy for me to say these things. I would say, romantic subplots. However, I do understand that there is a much bigger growing crowd of no spice readers, and that is absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. You do you, just like I like to read action. It's exactly like someone doesn't want to read about spice, and that's perfectly fine. And I think sometimes where the spice crowd gets a little bit up in arms is they think it means that it's a problem if they read spice, and like, no one's saying that. We're just saying we don't want to read spice or we want to read spice. I actually read a book recently, and she is a spicy author, is an auto-buy author for me. And I haven't read a single book of hers that I haven't loved. But her latest release, every single fucking chapter was a spice scene. And I'm like, okay, I get it. They're horny. Can we move on? Like, what's the fucking story? I'm over it. Okay, cool. He has a big dick. And I was like, I need something else. Like, there is no way that she is ready to go every single 5 fucking minutes and cannot have a coherent thought with it. And that's where I get irritated with Spice, is that it's fine if it matters to the story, but then marketed as a smutty good time. My favorite example is Navessa Allen, Lights Out. Okay, I read that one, the blue cover.
Mm-hmm.
She's very clear in her marketing. Okay, that is smart. I was actually quite surprised to find out there was quite a bit of plot driven into it as well. Like, the banter was amazing. There was actually a really interesting plot with it. I walked in with my expectations very clearly managed. I knew exactly what I was getting. I had a fantastic time as well. I open Instagram and every single fucking post I look at is a tropes push. Where are the days where we're actually making interesting content about our story? So, like, stupid example, I realized today that I haven't done it for a while, where I do, which character are you? So I take my characters and then you must pick one and you must pick and then I'll tell you, like, the emotion that you are, kind of thing.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
it's about my book specifically. Sure, I hope you buy it eventually, like, fine, but if you don't, like, we'll all get on with our lives, kind of thing. I just miss that intention behind content, where I felt part of the author's world through their content. Like, I get we all want to make money and royalties because, like, let's be honest, this is not the career that pays the most. But I kind of feel like that will come if we just craft these relationships and actually build content that matters.
I 100% agree. It used to be fun to be on there. Now I'm just liking and reposting often to help their stories go along.
Yeah.
And I agree, I miss the fun content. And it's hard to get out of that mentality of make the money versus actually engaging.
Last month, I had a fucking phenomenal month on Kindle. Okay. That one of my best in a very long time. And that's typical for me after a launch month. This month, it's like crickets. And I'm just like, okay, cool, whatever, it'll come. It's not the end of the world. It's fine. Just keep doing me. I have a rule for myself that I never make decisions based on money. I make decisions based on it being the right thing, if that makes sense. But I think that's also where I am quite lucky, because my day job basically gives me the disposable income where I can make these decisions, where I'm not in the financial shit. We have critique partners, we have alpha and beta readers, we have a developmental edit. Which ones did you use for your manuscript, specifically Gamma Rays? Because I know you have the second one that's almost out.
Mhm.
So which ones did you use, if any, and how do you believe you've benefited from them?
So I always do the first two drafts myself so I can get my eyes where I things want them. Then I send out to, I guess she could be called my alpha. I like to send them in one at a time for this round to get her feedback, edit. And then I go out again and I did betas. I think I did 2, 3, maybe 4. And I did them each one round at a time. For this one, I had time. I wasn't rushing towards anything. So I ended up having 5 different separate eyes on this one. And then I did a line editor at the end. And then another draft of myself for proofreading. So yeah, that's about what I could afford. I think it would be awesome in the future to do a development editor, but I also am nervous that I wouldn't like that style. I like to do those dev edits myself and with my betas and my actual readers. And I think having outside help, whether it's the editor or it's the friends, is like invaluable. You catch things that you just won't catch. You're too close to the project. I always tell people, like, at least beta readers, if you can't afford anything else, get people to read for you. You need outside eyes. You can spend time or you can spend money, and often you have to do a combo of both, right? You got to get a good end product. And
One of the best gifts I gave myself was taking a break from a manuscript. It's something I've only, I would say, recently-ish started doing. I'm actually editing The Fall of the Dam now, and I haven't looked at it probably for about 2-ish months now. I jump between manuscripts, so when I send one or 4 feedback, whichever part of the feedback phase it is, then I move to another one. And the 2-month break was literally the best thing I could have done for myself. So obviously, like, I have a ton of feedback that needs to be applied to it as well. But I'm actually excited about the story again. Like the words are flowing. And that's where I agree with you. Getting outside help, however that looks like, is invaluable. One of the biggest pieces of feedback from my beta reader phase for The Fall of the Damned was I was holding back on my magic. It was because I was so focused on getting like the plot right that I didn't realize, like, shit, they're magical beings. I should probably do something about that. But this is where a beta reader becomes so valuable because I was just too close to see it.
And I would always say use lots, especially starting out, because you find out different styles and different things. Like I have this one friend that I'm like, yep, you've got to be my alpha. You hit the emotion, you hit the big stuff, and then you get ones that kind of line it for you and you're like, you'll come later. So it's good, try a bunch and you figure out who works for you.
We have similar-ish processes just from what you've explained. So in the beginning, like, fuck the detail. I don't care about places. I don't care about weather or how the people look. I just need to get the plot right because I'm not going to argue about her blue sweater if she's maybe wearing a sundress, because the plot is not right.
100%.
So in the beginning, it's very plot focused in the sense of this is what happened. This is how they get from point A to point B. Well, the phase that I'm at is where I'm starting to add these details, like what's the weather like? The snow was falling, that kind of thing. To find beta readers that understand that about me, that don't necessarily go, oh, you're missing so much detail. Like, yes, I realize that. I'm the one that's pointed that out to you. Thank you. The two that I just use now for The Fall of the Damned, they'll probably become part of my default arsenal. They got what I was trying to do. Specifically those twisted spice scenes that I was talking about. I'm like heavy sweating over here. And they were like, no, this is great. This actually makes perfect sense for the story the way you've explained. I was like, oh, okay, well, I overthought that one to death. Do you want to chat about reviews for a second, though? Reviews are sometimes the hardest part of being an author. Not only getting them, but how do you deal with it when someone has less than favorable feedback? Do you even want to deal with it? Do you just rather want a out of sight, out of mind kind of vibe? How do you approach it?
How I should approach it. What I'm training myself to do now is stay away from Goodreads. I should have trained myself earlier on. It's not my space. I'm really trying to hold up that boundary. However, when you're first launching a book, you want to know if people are liking it. You're going to check in, especially those ARC reviews. Like, do people love this book? Do they hate it? So you're going to check in. I got hit really straight up fast on with a DNF and a really scathing straight up, I can't even remember the words. It was something like, I don't know, it made me uncomfortable. It was cringy. It was one of those people that was like no mature content for them. And so panic, that was the worst thing to hear. And I took that to heart for a minute. I stepped back. I go to my husband like, is this cringy? Is this awful? He's like, no, it's just her. Those just suck. And so my goal is to not read them, not see those reviews. And ironically, that person kind of went around hitting our circle of sci-fi with the similar type of DNF cringe reviews. So I'm like, okay, it's not just me there, but it was awful. Like that and the 1 stars, like that's the worst. But again, we'll bake the cake when we get there and it'll be fine. My 1-star cake. But yeah, no, it just sucks. You're going to get reviews. And again, it's not my place to be there, but I think my goal is just not to see it. And when you do, you step back.
With the Legion of Pride launch, I finally got the motivation to stop reading reviews because, like, I was totally in the same boat as you. I write niche. Like, I know that. I get it. I'm still going to do it. Like, I'm not going to change the way I write. And I have spoken about this on the podcast in this season. But when you get a scathing review, and a lot of readers justify it as, oh, you need the feedback. And like, that's fair. But I need readers to also understand I am not changing an already published book because you decided that you didn't like it. My favorite example is one morning, I'm literally getting a 1-star review from NetGalley because you can't not see those notifications, unfortunately. It is what it is. And then I have someone in my DMs on Instagram telling me that they're obsessed with me and I'm their new favorite author. So which one do I believe? I haven't had a look at Goodreads now for 2 months. It's 2 months of my life.
That should get an award.
2 months of my life. And do you know what also helped? I moved my actual reader tracker, because I do track, over to Storygraph, because it's so tempting when you log into Goodreads, you're like, author dashboard, author dash, it's just like, lean over there. And now, because I'm only on Storygraph, the temptation's not there. So that was very helpful.
So maybe that's my next move. Yeah, that's what I was going to say with that though is like subjective readers. You don't learn how subjective they are until you are right there. And then you realize straight up, this is how it works. You're going to find your dream readers and you're going to find your not dream readers. And like, I read a ton of books and a lot of them I liked a lot, but it wasn't my book. And that's just going to happen. And so I feel like you just learn straight up crash course.
So another favorite example, I got this scathing 2-star review, and this was just before I stopped reading the reviews. And she basically called me like a cheap Criminal Minds novels.
I'll take it.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually great marketing material. And I just double checked her Goodreads average, and her Goodreads average was something like 2.8. I'm like, babes, I don't think fantasy is your genre. Hey, like this is no longer about me. This is about you. And I'm also like, how did she get through? Then I'm like, you know what? I know how she got through, is because I got so overwhelmed with the launch, I started just accepting everyone. That is something I am learning so much, where just because someone doesn't like my story doesn't mean there's something wrong with them or there's something wrong with me. It just means that we're not a fit for each other, and that is okay.
Can I touch on a sensitive topic while we're here?
Go for it.
Okay, so this is related. Again, I was like, most of the feedback you get from the ARC phase and the early readers, you're just going to let it fly. You can't do anything. There was one piece of feedback I did decide to act on, and it terrified me, and I'm so pleased about it. A sensitivity issue. So when I launched, and again, I haven't spoken about this, I'm terrified I'll get pinged by it. And so I've made several posts and I pull back.
Yeah.
So when I originally set up gamma rates and in the ARC copies I sent out, it's been updated since then. I had essentially a female male system going on where there were two genders. And I didn't think about that because when I drafted it 5-6 years ago, it was lower on people's mind and it was lower topic. And I got pinged for that by one of my readers who was, again, more sensitive to that. And that's an issue I decided to go in and correct. And so I actually alterated the gender, expanded a little bit. When you've done your line edits, it was terrifying to go in and diversify your world a bit. But that was one that I felt like I needed to listen to, lesson learned, and move that forward. So the new copies people buy, they aren't the same as the ARCs. They have been edited.
For Legion of Pride, I added proofreading to my process. One of those things where don't know where I'm going to find the money, but YOLO, I guess. And my proofreader is incredible. I adore her. She's a beast. Okay, like the first, when she first started reviewing it, I actually got a little bit overwhelmed with like the detail she went into, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? Now, keep in mind, it's also my editor and I were like, but we've just done edits. Like, what is going on? Anyway, we understood her process, and we appreciate her attention to detail, and she challenges things. There was one term where my proofreader clocked me as well. Granted, the arcs hadn't gone out yet, so my arc readers don't know this. There's a big part of Legion of Pride where Iris is at a mental hospital. The term I used in the book was a psych ward. And I still remember when I went in for my double vasectomy, my husband still joked that they were taking me to the wrong place because the psych ward was actually right next to my thing. And I say to my proofreader, I'm like, I don't understand why we're upset, because like, here's a picture from the hospital. That's literally what the hospitals call it. Like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, can't do it. She's like, we can agree on psychiatric hospital. Okay. That is a more appropriate term to use. But she was like, psych ward is a big no-no. I thought I was pretty, clued up on the world around me. But now that sting has kind of gone away, I respect her for saying that, because I didn't hire her as a sensitivity reader, but she went over and above, and she just picked up one or two terms which could be a little bit more offensive. It wasn't my intention. The world is bigger than just me. So yeah, I feel that one as well.
Yeah, I appreciate. I was like, there's a lot of things we just don't know, and I wish I had more. And we're learning and getting better. And I'm like, I won't make the mistake twice. Like, that's just keep moving forward, right? That's the best we can do. So very happy for that.
I want to ask you, and you can pick more than just one, but what is one fantasy book that you think deserves to get far more love from the Bookstagram community? Indie, trad, hybrid, doesn't matter.
I always say Shadows Lost by B.K. Cavalieri. I hype this one up all the time, but it's beautiful prose. Like her writing is full of soul, it's full of heart, and it's imperfect and it's beautiful. And as well as like just her creativity in the fantasy setting, like you're swimming under lavender skies and chocolate, and it's just gorgeous. I that one just it's I've been really attached to that. I speak to that always. I love it. Um the other well, I had one that I also just love. I'm gonna say Alana Faye Wilson. She's also a sci-fi author. She has When Eden Falls, and she just had an urban fantasy come out, and the name just shot left my head. Um, she's not afraid to go there with
Yeah,
kind of the edgy feelings. It's a vampire story anyway,
yeah.
and she doesn't shy away from like the slightly uncomfortable eerie, and I think there's something so brave about that.
I've never heard of her before, so the fact that you are introducing me to a new author is why I asked my guests this.
Yes.
So, knowing what you know now about being an author, is there anything you would have done differently coming into this journey, or are you happy with it as is?
Yes, but also happy. So, yeah. um I focused on meeting authors, I think, when I first started out, which was amazing for me. I have so many. I feel like those original author friends you included are ones that have just stuck with me the longest. Like you build this bond. So I connected with authors first, which has been amazing and helping launch. But what I do wish I'd focused more was being more involved with the actual book community and the readers. And I think that's kind of been my goal since launching Gamma, was just to connect with more bookstagrammers and introduce that and kind of see how their world works and see what appeals to them and just see what they like to read. Again, we've been wrecking stuff back and forth lately and it's been really fun. And so that's kind of what I would say, as well as being more involved with, because again, I had an account before I published like a year or two, kind of getting to know, dipping my toes in the book world. And I think being more engaged with that would help know how to market your book. That's something that even what I printed on the back cover, I'm like, it's actually not quite pure space opera romance. It's a space academia. And so a lot of that, you don't know how to market it until after. And I think by being more engaged with that book community, I would have had more insights and a like more successful push even for that launch.
I literally just had this conversation with another debut author, and you're obviously not debut. I'm just like give the
I'm
question.
still young.
The question about how does she market, and I was like, doesn't matter which one you go. If you go trad, they're going to want to see, can you build a following? Can you market your own work? And it's like I was showing her through some of my stuff, and I was like, it's as simple as take your book cover. You can even use a coming soon. Few tropes, arrows, boom. I was like, well, you can do a 5 facts about your story, which is just text based and a pretty background. And like, you don't have to overcomplicate it. And I was like,
Mhm.
the fact is, no one knows about your book right now. They need to know about it. This is how you get them there, kind of thing. Unfortunately, we live in a world where writing the book is not enough anymore. And that is true for whichever path you take. It's not an indie specific thing. And we have to become these content creators. Knowing what I know now, I would have paid a little bit more attention to the marketing stuff as well from the beginning and not just had it as an afterthought. What was I as we start wrapping up, what can we expect to see next from your world?
Well, I am very excited. So, as I have announced, the second book, Gamma Raids 2, I don't have the cover of that one. That should be coming in the next month or so. Gamma Raids 2 is coming out this summer. Their world does not end there. I've already written the third one.
Oh,
Surprise. So there are at least three in the story of Kat and Lee. However, I have always kind of planned to leave the series open-ended so I can keep doing more as I wanted to. And I have an idea for the fourth already. I have a line in the third that I love and really just sends us into the next book. So I'm really kind of excited about that. But I think I also want to wait and gauge how this second and third book go over to see how much more we want of Kat and Lee. I feel like characters are so dimensional. You can just keep going with their story. There's more to tell. There's more to go. And I think I'm just going to wait and see how much more we want to read about them. I love Gamma.
so my original series, the Titan Syndicate Saga. So that is a trilogy, right? But I might be sitting on two covers that are busy. Oh, what? I told this. I might be sitting on two covers of spin-off novels, like full-length novels set in that world, because like you're saying, I am not ready to let go of some characters yet, and I'm just like, I feel like there's more of a story to tell there. Now, would the stories actually do well? Don't know. I'll write it and I'll see, and we'll take it from there. Like, I also know what you mean, where, like, these characters, we spend so much time with them, and then, like, when the series is done, you're like, what? I'm supposed to just, like, let them go? Like, what is that?
They live on.
If a listener slash reader is listening to this episode and they're vibing with you and they're like, I love what you're putting out there, what is the best way to connect with you?
I love meeting readers on social media. I'm on TikTok and Instagram and Threads and probably a couple other random ones. R.Lynn Hanks, I love to chat. You can find Gamma on my website or on KU. I'm just excited to meet new readers.
And if someone wants to support you, what is the best way to do that?
Probably on my website or sign up for my ARCs. Again, my website, you can find signed copies directly from me.
By the way, I've recently started doing that, and I think people underestimate how fucking hard it is to actually do that. It's not just like sourcing the stock, right? Because I've had like multiple issues with printers and whatnot. It's then how do you package it in a way that it actually gets to the other side? I had to send something to Australia recently. I had to bubble wrap the shit out of that book because it was the sprayed edges version, so that it actually ended up in one piece in Australia. It did, by the way. The lessons you learn were in my case, because so I order from Bookvault, and our closest, well, it's one of my printers. Our closest Bookvault is the UK. The UK is no longer part of Brexit. Guess what lesson I learned in the one order? I had to pay customs fees. The whole experience, I ended up losing money because of that. And then it gets better. It gets better. So one bookstore that I currently stock with, I don't know what I don't know, okay? I just like figure it out later. I gave her the books at cost price. And because she takes 25% of the sale, I actually ended up losing money because now people are getting like books, my books for like 10 euros. Like, that's what I pay the printer. So, I'm like, you know what? You live and you learn. Thank God I don't need the money. Like, let's just put it out there. Like, that has been a lesson of note, because I'm also trying to get the kinks out now, because I'm going to my first conventions later this year. So I'm like trying to figure it out now so that I don't show up at the conventions empty-handed, because that would be embarrassing. R.Lynn Hanks, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute joy getting to know you, getting to speak to you, and just seeing the other side of you and listening to the stories that you want to tell and just your thought process.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.